I'm Ian Cook. I'm with Bakerfield Solutions. I'm the Acumatica Practice Director here. Today we're going to look at an overview of Acumatica. Jeff Spears is joining us directly from Acumatica Corporate. So we're very fortunate to have Jeff with us. Thank you, Jeff. Today we're going to answer just two brief questions. Why Acumatica and why Bakerfield Solutions? We're going to talk about Acumatica ERP as being a very resilient system. So we're integrated into various other softwares. We work very much on a low code or no code basis within the Acumatica platform. And we are very focused on the usability of the product. Acumatica has won a number of awards for its usability, its integration with other first-in-class software solutions as well. We understand that we can't be all things to all men all of the time. And we also believe that when an upgrade is required, that we should minimize downtime to our clients. These are some of the integrations that we have with Acumatica natively out of the box. Many of our competitors will tell you that they can integrate with other softwares. So Acumatica does have integrations out of the box with a number of first-class leading softwares, including those shown on the screens. We also have a configurable workflow directly within Acumatica. So here's an example of a screen for this. It's pretty intuitive as to how this is used. We understand that not all companies will operate the same way and that there needs to be flexibility in process. Oftentimes with other software solutions that will involve engaging a third-party developer or spending time in-house going ahead and spinning up another instance of your software while you try to create different workflows within the software. Acumatica has that natively built in. And again, the code is created in the background as you change the screen, and the screens will dynamically change to accommodate any modifications that you make to workflow. Hopefully, if we get through the rest of the presentation today, we'll take a quick look at this in action. But we do want to try to focus on these 5 main points within Acumatica today. We want to look at the navigation and the user experience. We're going to run through an order to invoice process. We're going to look at the native CRM system that is built directly into Acumatica, the mobility that we have within Acumatica using a mobile device, which again is built in natively to Acumatica, and also some reporting tools. Again, what I want to stress is that everything that we're going to look at today is directly out of the box. No add-on, no third-party software will be used unless Jeff shows us something else that I'm not aware of. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and pass the floor to you, Jeff.
All right, I hope you can hear me.
Yes, sir, we can.
All right, and can you see my screen okay? I hope I'm showing the right one.
Yes, sir, we can.
All right, so thank you so much, Ian, and I'm happy to be here. I love showing this. And as you can see, I'm logging in with a user ID named admin, which is going to give me full privileges to everything across Acumatica. But I do want to emphasize that Acumatica is a role-based application. So if I was logging in with a user that had limited access to, say, just the banking module or the payroll module, as you see over here on the far left-hand side, that they would maybe only see the payroll module and they wouldn't see the full list of modules that like you see that I'm showing off here today, all the way down the left-hand side. So the point is, it is role-based application. And like Ian said, it's a browser-based application. So I'm using my Chrome. You can use Edge, Safari, pretty much any browser. We haven't seen one fail yet. And it's 100% cloud. It was created for the cloud. It will always be a cloud. Nothing like having to do a remote desktop session to get into your server. It's just 100% browser-based, browser and mobile application-based. Because of that, it means anytime that you have internet access, you can get to the data from anywhere using any device at any time. So as long as you have an internet connection, you're good to go. So if you're on vacation, you need to check on some sales orders and do some approvals, not a problem. Another point to emphasize, just again, piggybacking something that that Ian said was that Acumatica is easily configured. And so while I'm using the out-of-the-box version, you can customize the application and create your own little environments. So that's where I want to make the distinction between customization versus configurable. So the things that I do today would be configurable, but if you do have a developer on your staff, or you need something to be modified in a way that requires some extra coding, it's a really easy application to do that. It's very effective. And another point before we go too deep, and I don't want to leave this behind, is Acumatica is multi-company and multi-currency. So in my demo environment here, I am showing off 3 different companies. A couple of them have branches as well, and some of those entities could have different currencies as well. All right, with that being said, let's go ahead and dive in. Now, what you see on my screen right now is my Acumatica in the Chrome environment, and I already mentioned that the workspaces are on the far left-hand side over here. So if I am going to work in something, say receivables, notice that I'm hovering over that, where it has its own list of menus and transactions and things like that. So you see I'm a pretty robust list of things in my receivables module, but I can also modify this list and show more. So the entire list of everything that's available to me in AR, or I can show less, which are the things that I would use on a pretty common basis. Another thing I can do on these lists is I can trim these down and create a different list of quick. I don't want to scare you too much with too many options, but the point that I'm making with this is going back to that word configurable, where I can configure this space to make sense to what I do. So if I am somebody who works in receivables on a regular basis and I want to set this up the way it makes sense to me, well, then I have that ability. And the same thing is true on the screen that you see here now is the dashboard that I call customer view. And the customer view is, again, the things that me as a customer service rep would be interested in seeing on a daily basis related to customers. And so you, just kind of speaking to the things you see on the screen, I've got orders to ship. I have open opportunities, overdue opportunities, the things that me as a customer service rep would be interested in seeing. Like, I'm just emphasizing that over and over again. But the point of this is that it's one central place, one dashboard where I can see all of my KPIs, the things that are interested to me, all in one place. I can even create this filter like you see on the top. If I watch what happens to this open opportunities. It's currently 155. So on this dashboard, I have a filter where I can say, well, I only want to see what's going on with this AA customer. And so now I've changed this in total dashboard to see only the things that are related to this dashboard. Why is this important? Why am I spending a lot of time on this? Let me get rid of that filter. It just goes back to that configurable word again, that I can easily change this dashboard to suit my needs and to set this up in a way that makes sense to me. And I do that by just clicking on this design button. And when I do that, you notice some trash cans show up. I've got some pencils, things like that. So if I do not like this sales order trend by month, for example, all I have to do is click the trash can and it goes away. Or all I have to do is click the pencil and I can reconfigure that chart. Or maybe there's some more reports that I want to bring onto this screen, and I just scroll down a little bit and there's my add a new widget. I'm not a developer, but I am doing these things on the fly, as you can see. Maybe a little bit of technology in the background I have to be aware of. But with the add a widget, I can create charts, data tables. Here's my KPI word that I mentioned earlier, pivot tables. So you don't have to do that in Excel any longer. You can do it straight in the ERP, and even Power BI if you like. So I just wanted to introduce a few concepts to you on how configurable this product is. And I'll get into that here in a little bit, some deeper dive on that. But to kind of continue on with this technology, let's go into that open opportunities. And you'll notice that my browser does duplicate. So I now have 2 of them up on the screen. So I've got the original in the background and in the foreground. I didn't have to do anything special. Acumatica just knows that I was drilling into a report and it bounced it out in a second browser. But I can have an unlimited number of browsers. So there's no limit to the number you have up, and you don't have to have it in the same instance of your browser. You can drag this out, do your own thing, have it up on multiple monitors, just like I do. So if you can see the one I had in the background is still up, now I've got one in the foreground. Again, doesn't take up any extra licenses or anything like that. Now, going into this particular report that I drilled into, this one's a DB opportunities. You see the header up here on the top, and you see the list of opportunities down on my left-hand side. Something to note here is I've got a lot of them that are out of date, and my conditional formatting kicked in and made it red for me. And I've got these yellow things showing up over here, letting me know I'm missing information. So the point of that is that we do have conditional formatting. You don't have to, again, send it out to Excel to get that type of information. And if I like, I can also create these little sidebars over here on the far right-hand side. Notice how it's got a couple of icons on the top. If I hit that little arrow on the top, it's going to show me the information that makes up that record. And I'm currently have number 392 highlighted. And so the form that is getting ready to show me on the right-hand side is the information related to 392. And if I switch over to 391, now I'm looking at the opportunity of information for 391, and I can keep doing this. While I'm showing you opportunities, it's not limited to opportunities. This was just a convenient list to show you. So don't get hung up on opportunities, please. You can do this with transactions, master records, anything else. And I can even show you the dashboard that, again, was the source where we found that DB opportunity, and notice that it has that restriction for the customer account ID already in place, and there's the 6 open records. And if I get rid of that filter, it goes back up to the 155. All right, let me get rid of this browser, and we're going to go back to the one we were on before, where I've got my home page. So the whole point about the dashboard is it can be personalized, made specifically for what my needs are. It can be made role-based, so I can also apply it to all the people in a particular role. It's easily configured, and it gives me that one place that I can go to for all my reports and get a 360-degree view of what's going on in my world today. Now, we already talked about the things that go on here on the far left-hand side, my workspaces, and I emphasized like receivables and all the menu options you get over here, stuff like that. A couple of fun little bits here is like when I hover over a screen, and if I want to create a brand new invoice, we do have this. We also have the tiles, but I can also star these. Notice the little star that pops up right beside invoices and memos. And if I do the same thing under sales orders, for example, I can add sales orders to my favorites. And that's the star. And notice over here on my far left-hand side, I do have favorites, and I just added 2 of them on the fly really quickly, invoices and memos and sales orders to my favorites menu. Again, giving me that easy configurable environment where I can just go to the things that I use on a regular basis in the world that I live in. So I can just click on the invoices and memos, create a brand new one, go to sales orders, create a brand new one, and do what makes sense for me. Now, with that being said, one of the other fun things you see here on the screen in my browser, let me just make this a little bit bigger, is we have this search bar on the top. And this is a universal search that'll go throughout all of Acumatica and the different types of screens and pull back information that return whatever we're looking for. So I'm going to look for a 1099, for example. And along the top of this search results, you'll see I have menu items, transactions and profiles, help topics, and files. So it looks through those 4 types of entities to find what the return information related to 1099. And in this first one, you can see that I have 1099 reporting that I can do in my payables module. If I switched over to help topics, then it would show me help related to 1099 information. So how do I maintain and file my 1099? How do I close my 1099 year? And so on and so forth. But the unique thing about 1099 is it's also a value that shows up as a sequential number in transactions. So you see right here, I have an inventory transaction with 1099. I have an AP check that had 1099. So that's why I like to pull up 1099, because it crosses different types of entities. But I could do the same thing with other words, like the word case, for example, is something that we have in our CRM module where we have the ability to have cases. And so now I can go straight to an area with cases and pull up that menu item, or go to the help topic, or look for transactions that have the word case in it. You can do that with numbers. You can do it with digits, of course, alphabet. And another area to show off some of the easily configured areas of the application, or if we go to something like our sales orders module, and if I actually pull up a list of my sales orders, What you see on the screen right now is what we call a generic inquiry. And it's literally showing me a list of all of my sales orders on the screen right now. Inside of these lists, you have these column headers where you can then start filtering or sorting or dragging or doing whatever makes sense to you to make this environment a little bit more comfortable for you. So for example, I've got my customer ID here as AA customer. You see WID parent, things like that. Maybe I like to see my customer first. So I'm just going to drag that column over. Same thing with the customer name. Maybe I don't even need to see the customer name. I can come to this column configurator, find that customer name and drag it off the screen. Or maybe I do like to see the word branch, like what branch. I mentioned earlier that we have multiple branches in multiple companies. And I'm going to move it around using that arrow key instead. And so now the customer ID is gone. And where's branch? Branch, who's got the branch? There it is. I moved it so far up, it was right at the beginning. I can also, from here, I can limit my searches based off of just clicking on the column header and looking for a particular customer, for example, and limit my results of these grids to just one. I'm going to clear that filter out, give us more information here on the screen. And let's pay attention to this status column. See how we have completed and open, shipping? Well, I can create permanent filters on the top here that you see, like the open orders, which limits my list to just the open orders. And I can keep adding to these filters by using the filter tool over here and clicking the save and naming the filters as I like. So again, just kind of showing off the technology. I want you to get comfortable with what you see on the screen. And of course, I can always go back to my all records or go to the filtered records too. Now, when I'm looking at different screens inside of Acumatica, you saw that I went into receivables, and I have a whole bunch of screens here, like releasing the AR documents, for example, or doing a mass write-off of transactions if I needed to do that, or even prepare statements. When you're looking at things that are processes, and I'm just going to use this release AR documents, and in an Acumatica world, release means to post or make it final. And I don't have any open transactions right now that need to be released, but I do have the schedule button. And I could put this release AR documents on a schedule that says, hey, take care of this posting for me and make it happen every, let's just say every Friday at a particular time. So I want to make it happen at 11 a.m. every Friday, or I could make it every day. So whether you're thinking about this as releasing documents or processing the statements, or if I switched over to the payables where I can prepare payments or process those payments, everywhere where you see the processes, that can be put on a schedule, making your life a little bit more efficient so that you can get more out of your day. And again, making you more efficient is probably the word I just need to stop with there. All right, so that kind of gives you an introduction to the user interface and to give you an idea of what Acumatica is all about. I want to demonstrate now the order process. And I've been in and out of the sales order module here a few times, and I showed you the list. And I'm just going to use my little new flag here on the right-hand side of my transaction screen and just start a brand new transaction. And this is pulling up my sales order screen where I'm initiating a brand new transaction. And what you see here is on the top part, the gray part, is my header. And then down below is my details. And I can pull up an existing document and show you what that looks like, or I can just go ahead and start keying in a brand new transaction. One of the great things we have built into the application is that the intuitive typing, where when you start typing, it knows to look ahead and start finding people that match what you typed. So that did that for the customer. It'll do it down here for inventory as well. But you set up your customer, and then your default information for that customer will default in accordingly. So you saw the main pop in there, and it's this customer does use a US dollar. You've got your description for your sales order, the external reference, the PO number, things like that. Now on the sales order itself, you can manually type in the items like I can do here. I can start typing in something like the laptop. And again, the intuitive looking ahead where it finds the item. So it started whittling that down, and then the price for that item automatically pulls in based off the default information we have for that item. But I also have custom specific pricing for the Alta Ace customer. So if I do something for a 1, no unit price changed. But if I change the quantity to a 3, they start getting a discount at $4.75. So that's just taking advantage of our pricing module. But instead of typing in the items manually, I could have added items based off of, by clicking this little add items button, I could have selected a bunch of them all at one time, or I could have told it to sort based off of things that have sold since a particular date. So I'm looking at the things that have sold more recently. And again, I can check these boxes over here and I can just add them in mass. Up here on the top, I can also copy orders from the previous orders, or if I have a quick order where I have a kind of a template that I always use for a regular basis. And then another neat feature is I have t-shirts in my inventory, and those t-shirts come in multiple sizes and multiple colors. And instead of adding them all one at a time, I can just use this tool right here to say, well, I'm looking to add like 5 black, and here's extra small, that is, and 6 blue small, and 10 medium grays, for example. And then I can click my add and close, and at one time it builds my data in the grid here based off of those entries I made. Again, helping me be a little bit more efficient with my day, so I can do more. And then finally, you can also add from a file. That's what this button right here does, is I can add from an Excel spreadsheet and map the columns. So if somebody sends you the purchase order, if the columns match up, all you have to do is click this button, add that purchase order automatically. And again, the lines will be here. You don't have to go out and do some fancy integration or anything like that. You just have to use this screen. Now, with all that being said, I can take my payments on the screen. I can start working on my shipment information. And you can see the taxes and commissions and all that stuff being calculated here. But for what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to go ahead and send the information over to my warehouse. And I think I added I've got a mix of warehouses going on here. So that's my fault. Let me just get rid of those. I'm really only looking to do a warehouse, a wholesale order today. So let me get rid of my t-shirts and come back to my create shipment. And so I only want to create the shipment for this one warehouse right now. I could have done 2 shipments, but for this demo, I only want to do 1. So there's my 3 units of the laptop, given the instructions to the warehouse. From here, when I go into my shipping module, we do have an integration with all the major carriers, so I can shop for rates right now. And you're going to see some red X's. Don't let that worry you. I just don't have those configured. But if I scroll down, notice that I have my FedEx overnight. I've got the FedEx standard, UPS, things like that. Of course, I'm going to choose the best price I can find. So that's $30.70. And if I go to my packages tab, you'll see that I've pre-configured it. So whenever I'm selling laptops, I'm going to put it in a medium box. Here's my weight. And there's the tracking number that's going to populate when I confirm shipment. So when I do that confirm shipment, there we go. There's my tracking number. And if you follow again, way over here on the far left-hand side, I also have my, my label that I can print out for the box too. So we handle a lot of that information for you. Now, and then from here, all you have to do is prepare invoice. And now this sends the information over to my AR module. You'll see the screen change automatically. And this is what the whole order to invoice process is all about. And from here, I've got the status is balanced, and I can release the transaction. And I mentioned the word release earlier. And this is where I was kind of showing off the scheduling process. I could have put this on a schedule and told the system to release this at 9 p.m. or whenever I prefer to have this released, but I'm doing it here on the screen. And now it's an open status. At this point, I can print the invoice. I can email the invoice, and I'm just going to go ahead and print that invoice. And I have different options here, like the print, send, export, and I can send that off as an email. So it takes that invoice, puts it into an email format. Now I'm sending this off to ap@autoace.com instead of com, just so we have that separation. And the file up here you see is the attached invoice. So when I send that off, on my screen in the background where my invoice is, what we should see on the screen is, well, let me show you right here on the customer. That when I drill into that customer, that's my little pencil. We have a history of what's going on with that customer. little bit of CRM information that's always available to you for that customer. And if I go to that customer, like I am now, you can see that today's date, 6/24, here's that invoice that I just emailed. So we're tracking, so that customer ever calls back and says, hey, I never got that email, you can always pull up that customer's account information and say, well, we showed that we emailed it to you. Was the ap@autoace.com correct? Oh, should have been com. Sorry, that was our fault. We typed it in correctly. So again, a lot of different ways you can approach this, and a lot of information that is linked to one another inside of these processes. And another point to make here while I'm on this invoice screen is we do have a note that you can store per transaction or per customer or per vendor or anything else. You can also store files inside of the application. So if you had something you want to drag in here, like the PDF or the information that went into the background, I just pulled some Excel spreadsheet that I had on my desktop onto this record, and it changed the complexion of that invoice so that it now has a little yellow piece of paper with paperclip on the screen here in the generic inquiry for invoices. And again, if I had notes, that would also change color too. And you can see I've done a lot of invoices to AA customer in my past. All right. Now, to go along with this, I also receive invoices from customers via email. And so what I'm going to show you now is, here you can see, I'm just dragging my personal email onto the screen here. And I sent myself from a Gmail account to an invoice. And I can use my little Acumatica add-in here to my Outlook to create contacts, to do things like add an AP document here on the fly, which uses our artificial intelligence to start recognizing how those invoices are laid out. But if I create this contact, here it's pulling the information from the email, and I can also relate it to a specific business account. We've been working with the Alta Ace, so I'm going to continue working with that Alta Ace to create the contact. And then after I've created the contact, then I can do other activities as well. Let me just drag that back off the screen, and let's go to the receivables module and pull up that customer named Alta Ace. And inside of that Alta Ace, we should now see a contact for Jeffrey Spears, which includes my Gmail account. And let's, I think the activity that we had right here too, yeah, that's going back to that invoice that we created just a moment ago, just kind of proving that that information is tied together. Now, another feature that comes along with Acumatica is the ability to give your customers the ability to log in and see information that goes on with their account. So I'm pulling onto the screen something we call Customer Portal, or you could think of it as a self-service portal, depending on who you are, things like that. And notice that it looks a lot like Acumatica. So if I put these side by side, let me just kind of make this a little smaller or drag it off the screen a little bit. It's not the same, but it's similar. So it still uses a browser. It's still any browser, anytime, any place, but this is trimmed down to only give this customer information or access to their information. So let me just minimize my Acumatica in the background and just focus on this customer portal for a second. Now, as customer Malone, you see I'm logged in as Sam Malone. I'm interested in seeing the orders that I've had in my past. And so I can just click on my link for my orders. And this is everything related to only Sam Malone, who's with, I think he's with the Alta Ace. So there's a history of the completed, canceled, open. So it looks a lot like the same thing we were looking at before. If I go back to my main screen here, my homepage for as Sam Malone, I can then browse catalog items. And just like you saw when I was creating the sales order back in Acumatica, that I can do things like add a laptop. Let's add some hockey table, and heck, let's do a changing table too. So there's my cart, and I can add this to my cart. Go to my opening my cart here, and then proceed to checkout, giving us one final chance to review the order before we get off of this screen. Come on, squirrel, you can do it. This fell asleep a little bit while I was off the screen there. But hopefully you're getting the idea that this customer portal, the way it's designed, is intended to be a trimmed down version of Acumatica, giving your customers the ability to create their sales orders without you having to be involved. And then from here, I submit the order, and this finishes it off. If there was anything I needed to change, I certainly could have. And this goes and updates my Acumatica. And then moving right along, just showing you some other aspects of what you can and cannot do inside of Acumatica, and some of those external tools. Let me drag that off the screen and pull up my phone. Let's see here. Oh, come on, fingerprint, you can do this. Y'all ever do that where it's like, you can't read the fingerprint? So you see that icon on my screen. I'm just going to use my finger and I'm going to click on that and use my thumbprint. Hey, it read it that time. And what I'm showing you now is basically a mobile version of Acumatica. So instead of using the what do you call this? Browser-based application. Yeah, that's the word. Now I'm using the mobile version, which is available for Apple and Android, no problem there. And I'm just using a mirror technology to show you what's going on. And from here, I can drill into my expense receipts. Might be a little bit easier if I use my pointer on the screen to show you what I'm doing. And if I click the plus here, I can create a brand new receipt, or notice that capture expense receipt. I can take advantage of that as well. And from here, you can do things like if you have your mic turned on your expense recognition, you can just say what that is. I'm just going to do a new office supply. And then you see that little capture picture up here on the top. If I just went to the restaurant, or I just went to the store, and I'm literally this is my personal receipt from a Home Depot that I went to back last year. And just like that, I'm capturing the receipt. I can drag it around, like make sure it fits a little bit better, stuff like that. But after I've captured that information, now I can just send this straight into Acumatica. What was the dollar amount? 36.98. And so now I have a new expense. If I go and look at my Acumatica, look at my expense receipts, there's that new expense. So just like that, without a whole lot of effort on my part, all I had to do is take a picture of the image when you can see that Home Depot right here on the fly. It picked all of that up. It's real time, and this is really helpful, like especially when you travel. Instead of keeping track of the 1,000 receipts, all you have to do is take the image of it, and it's up to you whether or not you keep the paper copy, right? You just have to take a picture of it right there with your personal device, or if it's company device, whatever, and take care of it at that point. So I know we're a little bit long here, and this may be a good point to stop. Ian, what do you think? I can go a little bit longer if you like.
Oh, you're fine. I mean, we've got another 18 minutes yet, and my wrap up is going to be 5 minutes or so. I don't see that we have a ton of questions, so keep rolling, sir.
All right, will do. So another fantastic piece here about the Acumatica. Let me go back to my sales order module where we were looking at that list again. And I mentioned that you can configure this. And I did some dragging around of the columns and stuff like that. It was fun to do as a non-developer. But you always have these are what we call generic inquiries. And these are able to be modified and adjusted accordingly to what you like. I keep mentioning that, but you can customize it. So if you're very comfortable with editing a generic inquiry, that process is available to you. Plus, you can create your pivot tables here on the fly too. But just kind of emphasizing the edit properties here, as a non-developer, I can come in here and I can establish new relationships to other data inside of Acumatica. Or maybe there's some information that's not available to me in the generic inquiry that I want to make available. So if you're comfortable with going in and making some modifications, think of this as a little bit of SQL view of data where you can add new tables, you can create new data fields. But one of the things I really want to emphasize here is this expose via OData. And what this does is it still uses Acumatica security, but when you expose this via OData, this opens up this particular report to the outside world, and then I can pull that data into an Excel spreadsheet, into a Crystal report, Power BI, for anything else that's capable of using OData. And again, you still have to have access to Acumatica via the role-based security or user security. You still have to have the login privileges, know the URL, all that stuff. So it's very secure, and it is one direction. So when you expose this via OData, you're only pushing the data out so it can be reported on, but nothing comes back to Acumatica. Now, another piece that we haven't even talked about is everything that we've done so far. When we processed the sales order, we processed the invoice, that our finance module was perpetually being updated with everything that happens. And the finance module has built-in financial statements. So you see I have a balance sheet, profit and loss. These are all customizable, and you can have as many as you like. My sales demo data, as you see here, has about 15 reports, several P&L statements. But let me just focus in on the balance sheet for a second. I'm going to leave the adjustment I was making in the background there. And when we run these reports, these can be modified accordingly. Like I said, I also emphasized earlier that I do have multiple companies, so that I also have this tree system over here where I can run the different branches, or I can consolidate accordingly. But the other fun thing about these reports is I'm interested in knowing what goes into that cash and cash equivalents. And that's where we get these links. So I don't have to go and dig through Acumatica to go and find what that information is. All I have to do is click the link, and now I can go and see that, oh yeah, the cash and cash equivalents was made up of the 10,100 to 10,800 accounts. Great. Well, I want to know more about let's say this 10,200 account. All you have to do is continue to drill back. And now it's taking us all the way down to the account details level, which is another generic inquiry. And it's letting me know the 4 transactions that went into that value. And I can keep going even deeper and go into the individual GL transaction that makes up that one balance. So it goes in multiple layers. So our financial statements are not dumb, they're pretty smart, and that allows you to do a lot of drill back capabilities. I talked a lot right there just now. But that's going to be true not only for our financial statements that you see here, but also like I focused on the balance sheet, but there's the P&L. If I pulled up something like the trial balance summary, which I know everybody likes their trial balances, these standard reports also have their drill back capabilities. So if I want to see line by line, like on that balance sheet, you saw that I was focused on 10,100 to 10,800. So you can see the beginning balance, debit, credit, and whatnot. But again, I can drill back on those individual accounts here, pulling up the account details for that account. I'm just showing you different ways to get to the same information. So our reports have that built-in link right out of the box. We also have the ability on these reports, like this trial balance summary. Notice I have a pencil right here where I can go to the parameters that you can modify the reports accordingly using the edit report button. And in my financial statements, I also have report definitions where I can modify those. And I already showed you the generic inquiry, how I can modify inquiries. And so that does bring us to the end of my reporting features. I do see that we have some Q&A. Ian, are you ready to address those? We want to open up the mic to this, or
yeah, let's go for it. Do you want to take the first one, and I'll take the second one, and so on and so forth?
Yeah, I see we have some in chat. I'll take the one that's Q&A. Can employees clock in and out through the app? Not today. That is one of the features that we're working on. You see this time and expense. This is a place where you can go and enter your time activities and your time card, but it's not a clock in, clock out. So I just want to make sure that there's an emphasis on that. We do track time, but it's not a, I arrived today, click a button. You actually type in your time, things like that.
Next question I see is, when you're submitting expense reports, can the user mark which ones are reimbursable? Yeah, there's actually capabilities within the system to mark whether a personal credit card has been used or a corporate credit card, or some other means of doing that as well. And when the transactions are posted, they will automatically create an appropriate cash transaction if it was linked to the corporate credit card bank account, or it will go ahead and create a payable directly to the employee, which again, of course, can be put onto a schedule, as Jeff was talking about earlier on. So you potentially don't even need to go ahead and worry about running a employee expense reimbursement run. That can be automated. Were there any other questions in chat that I missed? I had a quick question for you, Jeff. Just a quick feature that we could discuss real quick.
Certainly.
Within financial statements, do you want to elaborate on unit sets, perhaps, and talk about different ways of looking at the profitability, not just of a branch, but potentially of a department or of a.
Oh, right on. Yeah, that's a great question. Thanks for bringing that up. So when I was running the balance sheet, I could have done this for the P&L or any others. Let me just drill in on that to get into show you the wizard behind the curtain for a second here, if we will. But notice when I'm pulling up that balance sheet, there's an opportunity to create a unit set, which is a way to tell us which companies, which branches, which entities we want to emphasize. And I could set that up for the balance sheet. I believe I already have it set up for the P&L. There it is, one for branches. And if we drill in on that, the branches, as you saw in the drop down that came out from the top, this will show us all the companies and branches that we've established in the system, but we're not limited to that, right? So if we do have sub accounts, and I don't think my system was primed for that, so it's taking its time, but we can also use sub accounts as another factor for this. So you can see the system we've designed here, that my products retail and products wholesale are going to roll up together into the products company. And then the services east and the services west are going to roll up to services, and then all of them are going to roll up into my all category. And that's great. But then I also have another one, say for products, which is a sub account off of my financial chart of accounts, where I have a code on my sub account that is the CON, another one that's ELE for electronics and computers, FDI for food items. And this is where I get to assign that anything that shows up as an FDI right here is going to show up as its own branch, or not branch, but its own entity, so that for reporting purposes, if I go back to my balance sheet, instead of using branches as my breakdown, I could use the products. And now when I go and run that report, the new report is using the breakdown of the sub accounts instead of the branches. And that's what happens here. So now I'm looking at consumer good, electronics, food items, industrial, etc. It's a great question, Ian. Thanks for asking.
No problem. No problem. All right. I don't know that we have any other questions coming in right now. Certainly what we're going to do is make this presentation available for people. So if there are any subsequent questions, we will take those. So at this point, I'll just go ahead and roll this sucker to the close, I guess. So thank you, Jeff. I'm going to go ahead and start sharing my screen. Let's see if I can find my controls again. Golly, I've lost my Zoom meeting real quick. Here we go. All right, share my screen.
Those buttons are hard to find sometimes.
They are, particularly when you've got four or 10 screens open at the same time. So you should hopefully be seeing the question that we started with here, which was why Acumatica and why Bakerfield Solutions. Can you just quickly confirm that for me, Joe?
Yes, sir.
All right, perfect. So yeah, what I wanted to do is just go ahead and finish out by answering the second of these questions. Hopefully, Jeff has done a pretty compelling job of going ahead and explaining why Acumatica is such a great piece of software and why we're so passionate about it. Certainly, Acumatica is winning awards left, right, and center for usability and for customer satisfaction. You can see how doggedly Acumatica is trying to defend that position of being number one for usability. And so there is always a lot of focus on making sure that existing customers and prospects can get the most beneficial experience using the software. But what about Bakerfield Solutions? Let's quickly talk about us. So For those of you that know me already, I've obviously been doing ERP solutions for, gosh, 25 plus years at this point. Between the ownership team and the leadership team here, we've got over 50 years of combined experience. We've got an almost fanatical attention to detail and to client satisfaction. It's this kind of meticulousness that's caused us to be awarded with contracts with many different companies with household names, such as those that are listed here in the Bakerfield Solutions bullet point. But not just with those, but also to be called upon for speaking engagements at international stage and in regional meets as well. We believe that together with Acumatica, we've got a winning formula for client success. Several years ago, the CEO of Acumatica, John Roscoe, reached out to his peer group leaders at other software companies and suggested that the persona of software companies, or the image of them, needed to be improved in the marketplace. There's too many customers or clients, prospects alike, that have a bad opinion of software companies for not doing a good job. And John was determined to go ahead and improve the image. So he drew up a customer bill of rights that has evolved a little bit, but just a few things that I want to draw your attention to. Unlike many of our competitors' software companies, Acumatica has a promise that you will never see increases in cost of more than 3%. That's out there on the website. It's public knowledge. That's the way we do business. You have deployment in flexibility. At any point, even though Acumatica is hosted most commonly in an Amazon Web Services environment and managed by Acumatica, we understand that customer data is exactly that. It's customer data. So anytime any customer wants to take a snapshot, a backup, for whatever other reasons at all, to have access to their data, 100% it's available to do that. We also believe that customers will work at different times. Acumatica is a global product. It's used in various countries around the world, northern and southern hemisphere, as far away as Australia, and as far, obviously, to the west as the United States, if you look at a pretty traditional style globe explosion. And obviously, we understand as well that because of that, you need to have support, not just from the local team that implemented your software, but also directly from Acumatica as well. And so there's a great level of support that's offered and a quick turnaround. So anyway, John Roscoe, as I said, put this out there to his peer group of other CEOs in the software industry. And maybe it's surprising, maybe it's unsurprising that nobody took him up on it. So Acumatica is the only company that provides you with this level of guarantee of your customer satisfaction. And it's part of the reason why Acumatica is ranked #1 for customer satisfaction within the end user community. So what else does Acumatica do that differentiates itself? Well, we all know from using systems that quite often you've spent way too much money on getting the software implemented. You've spent way too much, you've cut corners with the employee training. And then as soon as you hire a new employee, because they've become dissatisfied with the traditional process of implementing the software, they've moved on to another job. It's become too stressful. And so the company has already spent too much money and they don't reinvest in the new hires for training. So how does Acumatica combat that? Well, Acumatica puts free training out there on the internet. In fact, any of you guys that are looking to sign a contract to buy Acumatica in the next couple of months or so, you can start familiarizing yourself by going to the URL that's at the bottom of the screen. It's publicly available for people to go in and to be able to download job aids to know how to do things in Acumatica, how to process transactions. That's kept updated. It's not out of date. Every time a new release comes out with Acumatica, which is twice per year, there's 2 major releases per year, typically in spring and in fall, there's a major release. And of course, any other bug fixes or enhancements that come along the way, those are dropped intermittently during that period of time. So there's just been an upgrade that came out in April of this year. The next upgrade will probably come out September, October time this year. And that is a commitment that Acumatica makes. Unlike some of our competitors, when you get an upgrade from Acumatica, it has got a substantial amount of functionality added to the software. Not that it isn't functionally rich to start with, far from it, but Acumatica is constantly listening to people like me and Jeff and other people for that matter that are in the community and making enhancements to the software all of the time. It's a very productive and forward-thinking community. We've already answered most of the Q&A that we've raised. I did notice that there is one other potentially that's popped up. So let me quickly check that to make sure that we've given everybody an opportunity to have everything answered. Then we'll bring this to a close. So questions come in. As we help companies evaluate the best ERP for their needs, what are the key points to stress to potential purchasers of the software? My customers are most concerned with customer support and seamless conversions. So I think hopefully within the last few minutes, we've addressed that. If not, then what I'll do is I'll go ahead and put up my email on screen and we'll go ahead and allow anyone else to reach out that way. I want to thank you all again for your time today. Promise that we close this out within an hour. It is right at the top of the hour right now. So here is my contact information. Look me up on LinkedIn if you're not already connected with me. I'm always going ahead and having an opinion about something. Don't laugh too loudly. But follow me on LinkedIn, send emails, and reach out to us as you need to. Appreciate your time. Oh, one other quick question. Not sure if it's too late to ask a question. Are the upgrades completed during business hours? They don't have to be. They can be done over a weekend. They can be done during business hours if it's a small upgrade. There's certainly flexibility about that. Unlike NetSuite, let's pick on them because they're not here to defend themselves. NetSuite will decide when you're going to upgrade. With Acumatica, you make the choice as to when it is convenient for you to upgrade the software. So I hope that provides the answer to that. Well, again, thank you so much, Jeff. Thank you, Linda, for facilitating the meeting. And thank you, everybody that has taken the time to be with us today. I wish you a great afternoon and we'll talk soon.
Thanks for having me. Take care.